It's almost impossible not to hear about it these days. The second someone says cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
you immediately think massive energy use,
Yeah.
right? Bitcoin, Ethereum mining.
Yeah, absolutely. That narrative is definitely out there.
It's kind of become the default thinking crypto equals environmental damage. I bet most people listening have heard that criticism.
And look, to be fair, those early concerns, they weren't wrong. Proof of work, the mechanism behind Bitcoin originally, is energy intensive, no doubt about it. It needs huge amounts of computing power.
Right. But that's exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive today.
Yeah.
Because there's this other side, this greener side of crypto that doesn't get nearly as much attention.
Exactly.
Our sources are pointing towards some, well, frankly, quite surprising ways blockchain and crypto are actually being used to help the environment.
Precisely. It's a story that's kind of bubbling under the surface. And we're going to look at a few key areas like how blockchain is shaking up carbon credits, how the tech itself is getting way more energy efficient, and even how crypto is directly funding green projects.
Okay, yeah, let's start with those carbon credits. For anyone not, deep in the weeds of climate policy, what are carbon credits, basically?
Okay, simply put, think of it like a permit. A company gets permission to emit, say, 1 ton of carbon dioxide.
Right.
If they go over their limit, they have to make up for it, either cut emissions somewhere else or buy these credits from someone who did reduce emissions. It's basically putting a price tag on pollution.
Got it. So it encourages companies to clean up their act. Now, these have been around a while, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
So what's the blockchain angle?
Yeah.
Why bring this tech into something that already exists? What's the advantage?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. The traditional carbon credit market, it's often a bit messy, lots of paperwork, middlemen, and not always super transparent. That, unfortunately, opens the door to things like fraud or double counting where the same reduction gets claimed more than once.
Right. Sounds like a system ripe for, well, getting complicated and maybe a bit dodgy.
Exactly. So imagine putting every single credit, every transaction onto a public digital ledger, one that nobody can secretly change.
Okay, like a permanent record.
Precisely. That's what blockchain offers. Transparency. An immutable history for each credit, where it came from, who owned it, when it was used up or retired.
Yeah.
It makes it way harder to cheat the system. You get much better accountability. But, and this is important, our sources also stress that the value of these tokenized credits still depends heavily on the quality of the original offset project.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, potentially.
Kind of. There's still a lot of work being done on making sure those underlying projects are properly verified and standardized. That's key.
Right, you need the foundation to be solid. So it provides this trust layer, this verifiable trail. You mentioned a specific example, Vidium. What do they do?
Yeah, Vidium is one platform doing this. They essentially take existing certified carbon credits and turn them into digital tokens on a blockchain.
Okay, tokenizing them.
Exactly. And by doing that, suddenly these credits are easier to buy, sell, track. They become more liquid. You cut out a lot of the intermediaries.
Oh, nice.
Trades can happen faster, more securely, potentially. It just streamlines the whole thing.
Okay, that's a really clear benefit, making the market work better. Now, let's shift gears to the energy consumption itself, because that's the big elephant in the room, right? You mentioned proof of work earlier for Bitcoin, but our sources talk a lot about proof of stake. How is that different? How is it greener?
Right. So proof of work, as we said, is like a huge competition. Computers all over the world are racing to solve complex math problems.
Burning tons of electricity.
Exactly. That's how they validate transactions and secure the network, but it uses a lot of power. Proof of stake, or POS, is fundamentally different. No more massive mining race.
Okay, so how does it work then?
Instead of miners, you have validators. These validators are chosen to create new blocks and confirm transactions based on how much crypto they stake, basically how much they lock up as collateral.
So it's not about processing power. It's about having, like, skin in the game of financial commitment.
Precisely. You're putting your own assets on the line to guarantee you'll act honestly. The selection often involves how much you stake, maybe how long you've staked it, different factors. But the core idea is it removes the need for those energy-guzzling mining rigs.
And the energy savings are significant.
Oh, hugely significant. Our source pointed to Ethereum's big switch to proof of stake. They called it the merge. The projection was something like a 99% drop in energy use.
99%. Wow. Okay, that's enormous.
It really is a game changer for a major network like Ethereum.
And it's not just Ethereum moving this way, right? Are there other cryptos designed from the ground up to be efficient?
Yes, absolutely. Chia is one interesting example mentioned. They use something called proof of space and time.
Proof of space and time, what does that mean?
So instead of using processing power, Chia uses, well, empty hard drive space.
Hard drive space. Seriously.
Yeah. You basically allocate or plot storage space over a period of time. It's kind of like mining, but you're using storage capacity instead of burning electricity with powerful processors or GPUs.
Huh. So using resources that are often just sitting there idle anyway.
Exactly. It's a much, much less energy-intensive model.
Yeah.
Clever, really. Mining with hard drives, not power plants.
That really does challenge the standard image, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Okay, so we have more efficient mechanisms. What about directly funding green stuff? How does crypto fit in there?
This is another really interesting area. Think about funding for, say, solar panels in a developing country or a wind farm project.
Okay.
Getting traditional investment can be slow, bureaucratic, lots of overhead.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Cryptocurrency and blockchain offer a way to potentially bypass some of that. It's more decentralized.
So making it easier for money to flow directly to these green projects, cutting out the middle layers.
That's the idea. You can have specific crypto tokens tied to green initiatives or use things called DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations.
DAOs, right.
To let communities or individuals invest directly in projects they care about. Maybe solar power, clean water access, things like that. It could be more transparent, potentially lower costs, and really empower local initiatives, especially where traditional finance is hard to access.
That's fascinating. Using the tech to kind of democratize funding for sustainability.
Yeah.
It really does flip the script.
It does.
And it seems like big companies are noticing too. I remember Tesla making headlines back in, was it 2022? They said they'd take Bitcoin again, but only if.
Yes. Only if the mining used renewable energy. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
When a company like Tesla puts that condition out there, it sends a powerful message to the whole crypto mining industry.
Right.
It basically said, we're watching the environmental impact, and you need to clean up your act if you want our business. It showed that even major players are thinking about how to engage with crypto more responsibly.
It really drives home that point from our sources, doesn't it?
Huh.
That the environmental cost isn't baked into the technology itself, necessarily. It depends entirely on how you use it, and crucially, what energy sources are powering it.
Precisely. The tech is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used well or used poorly. The focus is shifting towards building and supporting the used well applications.
So wrapping this up, we started acknowledging that common view, crypto equal bad for the planet. But what we've actually uncovered in this deep dive is this whole other side. Blockchain making carbon credits work better, crypto networks becoming vastly more energy efficient with things like proof of stake.
Right, and even directly funding clean energy.
Exactly, directly channeling money into solar, wind, clean water projects, sometimes bypassing older, slower systems. It's a completely different picture.
It really is. It shows the importance of, looking past those initial, often negative headlines and seeing the nuance and the potential.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe the conversation needs to shift. Instead of just saying crypto is bad, perhaps we should be asking, okay, which crypto? How is it being run? Is it proof of stake? Is it maybe funding something positive?
Yeah, that's a much more productive question.
And maybe, just maybe, consciously choosing to support or engage with these greener crypto projects could actually be a way for people to push things in a more sustainable direction, using the tool, as you said, for positive change, rather than just seeing it as the problem itself.